Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as it is remaining very unsettled, fairly mild for the near future, but as we head towards the end of the month and start of April, will be a lot more up and down. There will be some cooler days, but equally some milder, warmer days. Big unfortunate thing is, it's just going to stay unsettled with lots of cloud and rain. Of course, if we did see a bit more sunshine around, like we're seeing a little bit today, we can see those temperatures shoot up quite a bit, but I doubt we're going to see a lot of sustained sunshine over the coming week or two. We'll have a look at that longer range with the GFS, GM, ECMWF and the ensembles, where it is very much up and down, but the consistent theme is very unsettled, perhaps cooler at times, but equally milder sectors as well. No signs of anything warmer and drier at this stage, but of course things can change quite quickly into April, but we'll have to just see how that does develop. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So if we do start on the live radar, you can see it is a reasonably dry day compared to at least yesterday. We've still got a lot of showers around, especially in the north and west over higher ground. Elsewhere, there is still some cloud around, it could be some pop-up showers. But equally, there is plenty of sunshine out there, and it will feel reasonably warm in that sunshine, perhaps temperatures in around the mid-teens. However, if you look out to the west, towards western parts of the Republic of Ireland, we can see another weather front approaching, and that was going to give some more widespread rain over the course of this evening into tomorrow. So you see the weather front from yesterday has now spread out all the way into Europe and Scandinavia. A little bit of a lull before the next weather front does arrive. So yes, it might look quite decent out there, but this is just sort of a 6 to 12 hour temporary lull before things do get unsettled once again. Now to on the temperatures, as of around 11 AM, you can see plenty of yellows appearing here once again, pretty much up and down the British Isles, indicating temperatures are getting up towards low to maybe even mid-teens in places, and could even feel a bit warmer than that in the sunshine, especially through parts of central England where we've got that drier weather. Wouldn't even be surprised to see some hints of orange perhaps developing here, maybe 16, 17 or 18 degrees very locally. But of course, all dependent on the sunshine, and of course I do think we will see plenty of sunshine through today. Now if you go over to the UKV and have a look at what the precipitation temperature is doing over the course of the next 5 days, now you can see the rain that spread through earlier this morning. You can see it is drier now, but you could see some thundery showers could break out through this afternoon. So there will be still sunshine around through the rest of the afternoon, but we could see these heavy thundery showers returning. Doesn't look like they'll be too intense, but they could be intense where they do occur in a few spots. Beyond that, as we head through the evening, you can see another big precipitation band does push in, very unsettled there, giving widespread rain from around midnight through England, Wales and Scotland. That does progress through, and hopefully it should pretty much clear by the morning rush hour, maybe lingering the far southeast and for parts of Scotland, but then through tomorrow we see more heavy showers break out in places, but nowhere near as intense as it has been recently. So tomorrow afternoon, through England, Wales and perhaps Scotland, might not be too bad. There will be showers around, there will be cloud around, but it won't be too bad in certain areas. Beyond that, as we do head into Wednesday evening and Thursday, more bouts of heavier rain moving from the west. More showery here, so more on and off, not sustained, but could be very intense where they do occur. And that continues into Thursday, where again it's another very showery feel, but not expecting anything too big in terms of long-lasting rain. Apart, perhaps, from the far southeast corner, we've got this little low-pressure system potentially developing later in the week. Could be quite intense, that. I'll have a look at the mean sea level pressure for that in a minute, but it could be a little intense low-pressure system there. Could be some very gusty winds, so very heavy rain for the far southeast, but big uncertainty on its exact track, so you need to keep an eye on that. And then beyond that, through Friday, another showery feel. Big bouts of heavy, showery precipitation around, and you can see beyond that into Saturday as well, that showery theme does continue. So it doesn't look likely later this week we'll be to see too much in terms of sustained precipitation, but there will be plenty of showers around, so some areas can actually dodge those showers as they dry for perhaps a couple of days, but most areas will see that precipitation. Where they do occur, it will be very heavy and could potentially even be thundery. You can see for early hours of Sunday here, so right towards the weekend, you can see a bit of snow in Scotland, and that's because cold air is going to start to dig in from the north, and for areas in the north it will be reasonably cold towards the weekend and start of next week, and that could spread southwards for a time next week, and that could give some frosts and maybe some wintry showers over higher ground, but of course we'll have to see what happens with that. Again, look at the mean sea level pressure. If you actually do run, you can see that little kink in the isobars in the far southeast. That is where we could see an intense low pressure system eventually develop with that precipitation. But once again, it is developing differently on each individual run. And as that does move through, it could give some very intense winds for a time. You can see the isobars do tighten. And again, if we do look at the wind gusts there, you can see quite intense in the southeast corner there, maybe 50, 60 miles per hour for a time with that localised low pressure system. Again, it was higher on previous runs, and it could increase once again on some of these latter runs as well. Again, look at the upper air temperatures, nothing too drastic, but as I said, towards Sunday, you can see those cold air masses are drifting back in, some very cold air masses, but of course, being the end of March, it won't be too severe towards the surface. Again, we'll have to see how that does play out into next week. So there's big uncertainty with the mid to long range models with how much cold air could spread in. Now, if you look at the max temperatures, you can see this afternoon widely sort of low to perhaps even mid-teens. You could even see 14, 15 degrees in places, and of course feeling warmer in the sunshine. Beyond that, into Wednesday, temperatures not dropping away all too much, maybe apart from the Republic of Ireland and northern Scotland, where it could drop down to mid-single digits, but once again, that's not all too cold. And into Wednesday afternoon, look at that 14, 15 degrees in the Far East, pretty pleasant, but nothing crazy when we take into account the showers, which will make it feel a little bit cooler. It's going to be one of those, if you see sunshine, it will feel nice up there, it will feel spring-like. If you see the rain, it will feel pretty drab and more like we're into sort of November once again. Now, if we do continue into Thursday, you can see those temperatures once again, nothing too bad overnight, maybe a little bit colder in Scotland, and then to Thursday afternoon, once again, mid to low teens, and then finally into Friday, you can see again, mid to low teens, maybe 10 to 30 degrees, so more trending towards average, and then finally into the weekend, a little bit colder through Scotland, and again, 10 to 30 degrees, and finally getting quite a bit colder in Scotland as early as a Sunday as that cold air drifts in. Again, have to keep an eye on what happens with that, as there still is quite a bit of uncertainty exactly how that cold air will push in and how long it will last. So if we do now have a look at the long range going to the GFS, you can see big low pressure approaching from the Atlantic, and this is going to give this very unsettled weather over the coming days. You can see big blues developing, very low heights, very unsettled as those lows do sweep in, and you can see no sort of centre of the low develops near us from around Wednesday onwards. It all stays out in the Atlantic, and that's why it's a very showery theme and not really long-lasting precipitation. There's no sort of central low pressure system moves through. Eventually it does through the weekend, and then we do see a northerly wind towards Sunday. Again, uncertainty how long this lasts. We've got a bit of a mid-Atlantic ridge developing. We're in quite cold area. We thought for a time this could be a little bit long-lasting, perhaps a few days. Now, more likely 24 hours to maybe 48 hours here. Eventually, westerly winds do sweep back in, more of a southwesterly flow. And look at this, just low pressure parks over the top of us, keeping us extremely unsettled and really quite horrible. You can look to our north, cold areas feeding into the backside of this low, milder is trying to feed in from the south, and that's just fueling this low, keeping it sat over the top of us, with us sort of in limbo, in cool air masses, and very, very unsettled. If you run it back, you can see nothing too cold coming, perhaps even some slightly warmer air masses there right towards the end of the month, but again, it's transient within a warm sector, and you can see that cold air that does drift in later this week into the weekend, start of next week, perhaps a good 5, 6, 7 degrees below average for the time of year. But again, nothing too drastic, perhaps some frosts in a few places. If you look at the GM, see how that does compare. Again, a westerly flow coming in at the moment. Again, keeping us very unsettled. As that low clears, could see a little bit of a northerly wind there, not quite as strong, so perhaps cold air not getting in as much. And then we go very unsettled, and perhaps into next week we can see a stronger northerly wind. That would be really quite intense before eventually we do see a southerly wind replace it, so a lot more amplification here, but still we're keeping us reasonably unsettled, flipping between very cold, a good sort of 6 to 8 degrees below average, towards perhaps 6 to 8 degrees above average, if not higher, by the end of March. We'll have to see, though, how that does play out. We'll see with the ensembles at the end of the video. There is a lot of volatility, especially around that day 10 point. Now, if we do have a look at the ECMWF, again, a westerly flow coming in at the moment, continuing over the coming days, before we see that northerly wind towards the weekend, before eventually it does break down only by sort of Tuesday, Wednesday time, and then westerly flow starts to push in once again, keeping us, again, unsettled. Central flows do keep away for a few days here, so it would be a showery theme, but there would be dry weather in places, and again, upper air masses are not too bad after that colder spell towards the start of next week. Now, if you just finish by having a look at the ensembles, these latest GFS, you can see the huge volatility from sort of this weekend onwards. Cooler towards the weekend, you see that little drop in upper air temperatures, uncertainty how long that lasts, and then generally we're back towards average and potentially much above average towards the last couple of days of March and start of April. But once again, it's accompanied by low pressure, so we'll be very unsettled within that. But there is loads and up and down. You see some runs go down to -10 through early April, some going to +10. So there is huge volatility with what is going on here. We will just have to keep an eye on what happens. You can see operational runs all over the place compared to what many of the ensemble members are going for. And it's all because we've got a lot of low pressure associated with it. Timings of those low pressures, intensities can change the air masses because it does decide how much warm sector we see or cooler sector equally. You see the GM knows the ECMWF, I think, that pulled that very cold northerly wind in next Wednesday, and that's all because that low pressure system was more intense and had a stronger drag of that cold air. So we will just have to keep an eye on it. It's going to be very volatile. There will be a lot of up and downs, but from looks of it, there's going to be some cooler, colder weather, potentially frosts and wintry showers in the north, but equally there will be some warmer, potentially even thundery weather in places whenever we see one of these warmer sectors move in and have a very showery theme. Look at the dew points over the course of the next couple of weeks. You see it is quite up and down. Some points getting down towards freezing. Again, quite cold air masses. Other times up towards 10 degrees perhaps, which is very mild southwesterly air masses. Again, the 2 meter temperatures, as we're sort of expecting, around the low teens widely, but a few days it could drop below 10 degrees with those cold air masses, especially towards the start of next week. And perhaps it could climb a little bit higher if we did see warmer air mass combined with the sunshine into early April. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Finally, if we just have a look at the ECMWF, you can see a much more sustained signal for that colder air to the start of next week for maybe 36 hours or so, and then we see a big climb. Once again, no huge dry signals. It's going to be a warmer sector before it does trend back towards average once again. So much more succinct signal from the ECMWF. Still a lot of volatility within it, still a lot of spread, perhaps 10 degree spread at times, but still pretty consistent. It's going to be very unsettled. Temperatures will be below average and above average at times. Also, just want to compare it to Glasgow. You can see it is very similar. That colder spell towards the start of next week is a little bit stronger. It's colder and it's perhaps 48 to 72 hours lasting, but equally it follows a very similar sort of pattern to most of the other runs and most of the other locations where it does go above average into the start of April before trending more towards average once again. So it is looking like we're going to see big variations in conditions and especially temperatures over the next week or so. There will be cooler weather, perhaps high single digits, but there will also equally be warm weather, mid to maybe even high teens in places where we see some sunshine. But the big consistency doesn't really matter where you are in the British Isles. It is going to be unsettled. There will be many places that are not going to avoid rain at all for the next week or two. We see pretty much rain every single day, and not always big weather fronts, but equally we're always going to be seeing so showers around. So if you do get a day where you completely escape the rain, you've been very, very lucky. So hopefully we do see something a little bit warmer and drier into April. Of course, we do still need the rain. We still have some sort of drought conditions or sort of below average reservoir levels in places, especially the southwest I've seen. But we do need to pop those up, of course. Need to get some more water, but equally we do hopefully need to get some drier, warm weather in the near future. Hopefully we do see something, as I said, into April. So anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you do stay safe out there. It's going to be quite wild over the next week or so with a lot of rain, up and down temperatures, and equally could be some quite strong winds as well, but of course nothing too severe at this stage. So I'll keep you updated with what's going on, and if we do see any weather warnings for the rain, wind at all over the coming days. So as I said, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.